right, folks, we're back. Second hour of the American Awakening. Your host, Michael Herzog. Well, you know, that's my favorite song of all the bumper music on there. And what did she just say? I found a picture of you, and Don finds so many pictures of so many people that just blow the lid off of everything that everybody tries to tell us on mainstream media about these people that are supposedly our fearless leaders. Anyway, getting back to the story, go ahead, Don. You got the floor.
Okay, now, it sounds like I'm jumping around, but for the listening audience, and for you too, Michael, this is how the research goes. It's not from point A to point B to point C. I may find myself at point N and having to jump all the way back to point D and following, then maybe to P, you know, no pun intended there. So I'm trying to give an overview of the things that we're told and the things that I'm discovering that are debunking the story, you see. What is the significance of Dot and Lloyd Yamamoto? Well, Dorothy Yamamoto was a second vice president, and there's definitely a very suspect tie to Frank Marshall Davis. What is Davis? Well, Davis was known as a communist, and he was a mentor of Barack Obama, and he did drugs with Stanley Armour Dunham, the so-called grandfather, and Barack himself, and was involved in bisexual flings with couples who were part of this CIA network. It's the same thing that goes on today, isn't it, that we hear about going on in Washington, to be part of the club. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to the second photograph that I was given. And if you notice the Stanley Ann Dunham photograph, I actually did a crop and a blow-up of her picture so one could see a little clearer on the page without using a magnifying glass what she looks like close up. Right. Now, we go to the second photograph, which was taken. It was a sort of a roving photographer in an Oklahoma City restaurant that took this photo. And the photo was taken circa 1947. And there are 6 people in there, and they're sitting with each other's spouses. Or in the case of one couple, I haven't determined if they're actually married or by all indications they could have just been out on a date. But Stanley Armour has his arm around the woman and is actually resting on her breast. And then her hand is cupped over his hand. They're smiling. He's got a cigarette. He's wearing glasses. We had not seen him wear glasses at this time, but later on in life he wore glasses. The woman in the center of the photo is Grace Rashke, the wife of the chemist. And the man in the middle remained unidentified at the time. Now, this is interesting. Let's keep a mental note of this, because we're going to come back to that. Then there's Madeline Dunham and Dr. Charles Rashke. Now, they're all there. This is a CIA meeting taking place. It's a dinner meeting, is how it was described to me. And they had many of these. This happened to be one photograph that I was given. We didn't know who the man in the middle was, and then one day I got an email from a listener to my radio show who wanted me to hear this spiritual teaching from a website called EthereusSociety.org. So I went there and I was listening, and I thought, what a bunch of gibberish. I'm very much into metaphysics, and none of what I heard on a metaphysical plane made sense. I studied yoga as a young man. I studied yoga and later taught yoga, and I know the various types of yoga. And one starts off with hatha yoga, which is the physical yoga. It's the physical exercises and postures that one learns to discipline the body before going into the mental yoga. And the guy being described in these audio recordings was a guy by the name of Dr. George King. And none of what they were teaching about this guy or his teachings, references to his teachings and his claims made any sense. He's determined to have been, by his own assignment, a cosmic channel for planet Earth. He's receiving channelings from beings from outer space, and he's learned to do this because he studied mental yoga, Raja Yoga or Dharma Yoga and Kundalini Yoga, which are actually dangerous to even attempt if you haven't gone through Hatha Yoga. And I came across a picture of this guy sitting in a half lotus, which belies his claim to have studied yoga 8 to 12 hours a day. Of course, he doesn't mention studying Hatha Yoga, but there he is in a Hatha Yoga pose, and it's poorly done. He's in a half lotus.
Don, let me stop you for a minute. For the sake of the listening audience, I want to mention, folks, if you want to follow along with this as far as these pictures and what we're talking about here, you're welcome to go into Direct Light Productions, into the articles here, and you can read the Three Stooges Go to Washington Part 5, and the specific pictures he's talking about are on page 11 and page 16. Now, Don, before you continue, let me ask you, this mysterious gentleman that's sitting in the middle of this picture with Stanley Armour Dunham, with his arm around his wife and on his hand on the breast, are you alleging that this guy, which looks really, really, really close, is the same guy that's in this half lotus position on page 16?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Dr. George King. Now, Dr. King, I came to learn, was MI6 and CIA, and he was very much into mind control. What a great way to establish yourself in mind control in the United States. According to him, he came here in 1960, but here we have a photograph of him in 1947, blitzed out of his mind and smoking a cigarette on top of it, which belies...
Wait just a minute here. Now, let me insert something. This picture here with the guy in the middle at the table was taken in 1947. This picture with this guy, studying Kundalini Yoga in the half lotus position, when was this picture taken?
That picture was taken sometime in the 60s or possibly early 70s.
Okay, when he lost all his weight. Because in the picture... I mean, the features are almost perfect, but the only difference in the picture when he's sitting at the table is he has a double chin. And when he's sitting in this half lotus position, the guy has literally lost all his weight, and he's probably got 3% body fat.
Yeah, but he's pretty wasted in the first photo. You can tell that they're drinking, there are bottles and tons of glasses on the table, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he's up real close to another man's wife.
He's having a good time. There's no question about that.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of Frank Marshall Davis is the point I'm making here. But then in studying this guy is an operative. He's a Tavistock operative working for MI6 and the CIA. No doubt about it. And I've interviewed some other people who tell me about the writings and the other teachings. It's gibberish that anyone would even believe this, what this guy was peddling, and they referred to him as the master, which I did twice in the yoga photo, where I call him the yoga master and the master of the leaning half lotus. He's not even sitting up straight. So it's a farce. It's a publicity stunt is all it is to try to legitimize what this guy was really doing. I would even go out on a limb and say that this guy being in Los Angeles was likely the programmer for Barack Obama when he was at Occidental College. This is the significance of this person being in this photo with the Dunhams as far back as 1947, and having this guy and Barack both show up in Los Angeles later on.
Oh, there's no question about it. It's awful fishy. Now, let me ask you this question. One more. According to this picture, when Stanley Dunham has his arm around this lady is who? This is his wife? One of his wives, right?
That's one can